Porter Halyburton, B-roll, take 2.
Okay, and before you start, Porter, let me, I'll tell you what, carry the glass of water that's there. Maybe either move it into the light or,
I can just move it over here
that'd be great. Oops,
Here,
or here.
on the floor.
that'd be great.
Like that.
Let me tighten in.
And you want me
And where are you gonna be holding them, Porter, so I can see?
right in here?
Right in there?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
perfect. Let me tighten in a little bit. Hold your hands there, please. Sorry, sir.
That's what
If you
Kent told
want-
me to
If you
do.
want, you go a little bit lower. Yes, sir.
Okay. Hold on.
I just didn't want you to watch this later and say, Kent was just photographing my crotch. Rolling.
Kent's a genuinely good guy. Okay. Let me frame a little bit differently. There we go.
Rolling.
All right, we're rolling. Okay, Porter, tell me about your work.
Okay, well, I'm involved in a lot of different things, and one of my favorite things that I've made is this. Of course, I'm into mermaids. I collect mermaids, and people give them to me, and I've made quite a few out of different things: clay and wood and metal and all kinds of things. But this is really my favorite one because it's carved from boxwood that I was helping to clear out some old boxwood in a place called Blythewald up where we lived in Bristol, Rhode Island. And I saved several pieces, and this was one of them, and it sat in my garage for about 10 years before I finally decided, what was in there that was trying to get out. And so this is my favorite. She had a flaw back here on the wood, so I just stuck a little starfish there. But she's one of my favorites. And also in my pottery, I went through a stage where I was making things out of paper clay and using a kind of a new decorative technique, which I learned from one of my instructors. And so we would make things like this that were highly decorated on both sides. And in the process, you'd roll out your slabs of clay and you'd coat them with the underglazes and all of that. And you wound up with scraps, left over. And so a lot of times.
If you could, Porter, hold the cup up so that Kent can
I
see
got
it without your fingers.
I got it.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
That's it, perfect.
And so in making these kinds of objects, cups and bowls and all kinds of different things, there would be scraps left over. And so this particular little piece here was just made out of scraps, And so I just started fooling with it, and all of a sudden the idea of a canoe sort of came because that's the way it was coming together. And then, of course, it didn't stand up very well, so I had to make this little stand. So, a lot of things that I make just happen sort of on the spur of the moment, or the material says something to me, and so that's the way it works. But yeah, this has been a nice little piece. I like it. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I want to see. Let's have Porter, you talk about what's in this box here, sir. And please, if you could, one of the things about carving bone, you carved out of bone in the Hanoi Hilton. You made a needle. It takes an enormous amount of time to carve bone, and
Yeah.
it's a natural material.
Right.
If you can, tie it a little bit back to time and patience, the ideas of time and patience.
Yeah.
Having time.
Yeah.
Taking time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the other things that I guess I started doing it in Hanoi was with bone, and we occasionally would get a piece of bone in the soup or something like that that was hard enough to work, and I actually made a needle out of a piece of bone. And of course, I had a nail that I could use as an awl to drill the hole, the eye. But you did that before you actually made the needle, so you're making the needle around the eye. And so I love that material. I love ivory and so on. And so later on, I began to carve things out of bone. And you know, these things take an enormous amount of time and patience to do. And I use a variety of tools to do it. Dremels and files and sandpaper and even toothpaste as a polish. And then the final treatment for most of these is to soak them in very strong tea to give the sort of antique look to them. So this is one of my favorite little mermaids. This one is I think the first one that I ever made, the first mermaid that I ever made. And I kind of like her. I think she's a sweet little one. Larger bones sort of lend themselves, you know, to a certain shape and so on. And so traditionally mermaids have a mirror, they're looking at themselves, and then they're combing their hair with a comb. And so those are traditional in the lore of mermaids. Here's another one that she doesn't have the comb and mirror, but she does have the flowing hair and so on. So I like her. And then here was another one that sort of was going to be a napkin ring, maybe. So I wasn't quite sure how she was going to turn out, but there she is. And I also did fish, little leaping fish. But these were fun.
And Mr. Halyburton, can I do those last ones? The best background is your shirt, so if you have it, yes,
Oh,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is just a little fish, sort of jumping. Of course, I'm a fisherman and I love to fish, and so these are kind of special, and they're related to mermaids. But the one that really came together is made entirely from recycled material. This is her little home, and this is actually ivory from ivory piano keys. And these are bone. This is all ivory from piano keys around here. And my neighbor was building a new deck, a teak deck, and so the wood is scraps from his deck. And so inside is one that was made, I think, from a lamb bone. And it was, again, the shape of the bone dictated the shape of the mermaid. So this one took quite a bit of patience, but of course I learned to be patient in jail. So I didn't mind spending the time on these. But yeah, she's kind of special too. But she doesn't come out very often. She stays in her little home here. So I think that's all.
Beautiful. Oh my God, Porter, you're just an amazing human being.
Cut it.